Alien cat girls were sold as meat. He used his last credits to save them. Asterisk. The air inside Nexus 6 tasted like rot and ozone. The asteroid's artificial gravity hummed low beneath Captain Jack Harlow's boots, almost like a warning growl from the belly of something ancient and malevolent. He pulled the collar of his jacket higher as he pushed through the packed corridor of the market bazaar, his every step lit by flickering neon signage advertising black market tech, off-world narcotics, and pleasures best left unnamed. The whole place stank of desperation, of sweat, spices, oil, and something far fouler just beneath the surface. Goddamn waste of time, Jack muttered under his breath, sidestepping a squat, six-eyed vendor hawking genetically modified tongues. His ship, the Horizon, was dying. A busted atmospheric regulator meant his crew had less than 20 hours before the recycled oxygen turned stale and suffocating. The only authorized Terran Alliance parts depot was 3 light weeks away, but Nexus 6 had a reputation for making miracles if your conscience could survive the cost. He ignored the stares. A human in these parts was like blood in water. Everyone watched. Everyone measured. His fingers rested near the blaster at his hip, but he had no intention of starting a fight. Just get in, get the part, and get the hell out. Then he heard it. A muffled whimper. Faint. Feline. Jack stopped, instincts flaring like a flashback. He scanned the corridor and saw it tucked into the shadows between 2 bulkhead beams, a cage. Rusted steel, heavy lock. And inside, huddled together, were 3 slender forms. Barely clothed in tattered rags, their blue skin was patterned with faint silver markings like starlight etched into flesh. Their large golden eyes, slit-pupiled and luminous, darted toward him. Fella dans. Jack felt his breath freeze. He hadn't seen one in years, not since the war, not since the convoy massacre at Varian Rift. Back then, he'd seen them as diplomats, healers, civilians. Now, these girls know. Young women were on display like cuts of exotic meat. A sign hung above them. Exotic prime meat, sold by weight, rare taste. His stomach turned. One of the girls, the tallest, slowly stepped forward. Her frame was delicate but poised, protective even as her hands trembled. She stared directly at him. No fear in her eyes, just a kind of numb defiance, as if she'd already accepted her fate. A bloated green-skinned merchant with 4 forearms barked in broken trade tongue nearby. Special price for whole set. Fresh meat, royal bloodline, very tender. Jack barely heard him. The memory of Varian Rift slammed into him. Burning ships, corpses in escape pods, his commanding officer whispering, "We're too late," before the Cons died. Jack had watched good people perish because no one acted in time. His hand reached for his credit chip almost without thought. "How much?" he asked, voice hoarse. The price nearly knocked the air from his lungs. Everything he had. Enough to buy the regulator and spare parts and fuel. Enough to survive. He hesitated. The Palladian girl's eyes locked onto his again. She said nothing, but her gaze screamed. Jack swore under his breath, ripped the chip from his belt, and slammed it into the reader. All of it. Now open the cage? The merchant blinked, uncertain. "You eat now, or take home?" Jack's voice dropped to a dangerous growl. "I'm not eating anyone." The lock disengaged with a mechanical click. The cage door groaned open. The girls flinched back instinctively. Jack crouched, voice gentling. "I'm not going to hurt you. I'm getting you out of here." The tall one stepped forward again, shielding the others. "You not eat us?" "Hell no," Jack said, the anger thick in his throat. "You're coming with me? You're safe now?" He shrugged off his jacket and draped it over her shoulders. It swallowed her frame, but her posture straightened just a little. She turned to the others and whispered something in a language Jack didn't understand, but the meaning was clear. They were going with him. And Jack, without credits or a plan, without a working life support system or a second chance, turned. His back on the market and everything he thought he'd come to Nexus 6 for. He didn't know it yet, but that decision would change the fate of two species and paint a very large target on his back. Asterisk. The shadows of Nexus 6 clung to Jack Harlow as he led the Palladian sisters through the narrow back corridors of the market complex. He kept one hand near his blaster, the other stretched slightly behind him to keep the girls close. The market pulsed with 1,000 alien voices, overlapping dialects, the grinding of machinery, and the buzz of surveillance drones. Around them, the dark heart of the galaxy beat slow and cruel. They moved quickly, but not quickly enough. Jack's communicator buzzed. He tapped the device behind his ear. "Tell me you've found the part," came Mac's gravelly voice. "I've got something else," Jack replied, glancing at the blue-skinned girls trailing silently behind him. Their bare feet made no sound on the grated flooring. "What do?" "You mean something else?" "Captain, we've got 18 hours before this ship turns into a tomb. We need that regulator." "I know," Jack snapped. "Just get the engines hot. I'm coming." He killed the call and turned sharply down a maintenance corridor, pressing the girls into the alcove beneath a flickering light. "Stay here," he whispered. "Don't move. Don't speak. I'll be back in 5 minutes." The tall one, Laura, she'd whispered her name as they left the cage, caught his wrist. Her grip was firm despite her frail appearance. "Danger?" Jack's eyes met hers. "Yes, but I've handled worse." She nodded once, and her hand slipped away. Jack moved quickly, ducking into the next corridor where a cracked sign read Grinnell's. Salvage. A greasy viewport revealed racks of cobbled-together tech, and sitting dead center on a display shelf, his atmospheric regulator. It looked intact, untouched. Hope flickered. He stepped inside. The Terrian shopkeeper, a squat, thick-limbed alien with 4 tusks and yellowed eyes, barely looked up. Chuck tried to keep his voice casual. "That regulator, how much?" the Terrian snorted. "Triple market value. Only one on station. That's robbery." "And die." Jack bit back a retort, his hand twitching toward his holster. He could shoot. Grab the part. Run. But it wouldn't help the girls. He reached for the regulator anyway, but the Terrian moved like a brute despite his size, one thick hand locking. Onto Jack's shoulder. "Touch again. I break fingers," the alien growled. Jack's mind raced. Talk wasn't working. Violence would bring station security. He needed a distraction. Sound cut through the market. Noise. Shouting. Jack glanced through the shop's viewport, and his blood ran cold. The meat seller. The 4-armed bastard from before. He was flanked by 2 market guards, gesturing wildly in the direction Jack had come from. They were scanning for signs, scanning for Palladians. "No," Jack whispered. He shoved the Terrian hard, grabbed the regulator off the shelf, and bolted. Alarm screamed to life. Market drones descended from the ceiling, mechanical limbs unfolding. With guns already hot. "Stop! Thief!" Their automated voices screeched. Jack ducked into the corridor, regulator tucked to his chest. He sprinted past alleys of stunned vendors and confused shoppers, searching for the alcove where he'd left the girls. Gone. His heart seized. Then a slender hand shot out from a ventilation shaft. "In here," came Laura's voice, sharp and urgent. Jack didn't hesitate. He dropped to a crouch, shoved the regulator ahead of him, and wriggled into the tight shaft. It was pitch black and suffocating. All 3 sisters were packed into the narrow tunnel, their soft breath warm on his skin, their bodies pressed tightly against him. "How did you—" "Good climbers," another voice whispered. "Ma, the quiet one. better hiders. They are searching, Era added, her eyes glowing faintly in the dark, looking for blue ones. Very angry. Jack nodded, breathless. I've got the part. But now we're fugitives. Lura's voice was soft in his ear. We help. No way. The girls began to move, guiding him through the shaft with surprising speed and grace. Jack struggled too. Keep up, his human frame barely fitting through the tighter bends. As they moved, he became aware of every touch-brushed arms, fingers guiding him, furred ears brushing his chin. The closeness was stifling and intimate. Lura glanced back at him once. Even in the dark, Jack saw the hint of a smile on her lips. You stare? Jack flushed. Sorry, wasn't. Is okay, she said gently. You save us. You can look. Era giggled softly. Savior is high honor. Very special. Ma's voice, low and serene, added, very bonded. The implication hung heavy in the air. Jack tried to focus. We're getting out of here, he said firmly. We reach the docking bay. Then we run. But when they emerged from the ventilation shaft into a side maintenance tunnel, Jack's stomach dropped. The bay was just ahead, and it was swarming with drones and armed guards. We'll never make it, he whispered. Lura stepped in front of him, her silver markings glowing faintly. We will. We distract. You run. Start ship. I'm not leaving you, Jack growled. Era touched his chest, her fingers lingering. Not leaving, following. The sisters moved as one, their feline eyes glowing, pupils widening until their irises disappeared. Their skin shimmered faintly with pulsing light. The air shifted thicker, sweeter. Jack felt it first as heat, then longing. What are you doing? Palladian gift, Lura whispered. Distraction. Pheromones. Before he could protest, they stepped into the open, moving like dancers in a silent ballet. Guards turned. Drones paused. Weapons lowered, mesmerized. Jack stared. In awe. Then he ran. Asterisk. The moment Jack burst into the docking bay, the chaos behind him vanished, swallowed by silence and awe. The horizon sat just ahead, its matte gray hull gleaming under the blue floodlights. His boots thundered across the platform, regulator tucked beneath one arm, breath burning in his lungs. The guards hadn't noticed him. They were all watching the sisters. Lura, Era, and Ma moved with otherworldly grace through the open floor. Every motion was fluid, sensual, hypnotic. Their glowing silver markings traced trails of light with every step, and the hum of their voices, soft, melodic, wrapped around the guards like a net. Jack saw hardened mercenaries standing slack-jawed, weapons forgotten at their sides, eyes wide and unfocused. He didn't know what the pheromones were doing, but it was working. His ship's ramp lowered with a mechanical hiss. He sprinted aboard and slammed the emergency startup sequence. Lights flickered, systems roared to life, and oxygen readings began to stabilize. Mac, he barked into the comms, regulators aboard. Installing it now. About damn time, came the reply. What's happening? Out there? Don't ask, Grack growled, slotting the regulator into its housing beneath the main console. The ship shuddered as fresh air cycled through the vents for the first time in hours. Just get the engines hot. We're leaving. Now. Outside. The trance finally began to break. One of the guards shook his head violently, blinking. Another reached for his weapon. Jack's heart seized. Then, 3 blue blurs darted across the open bay. The sisters moved faster than human eyes could track, springing from platform to support beam in a flash of limbs and light. Jack stood at the top of the ramp, blaster drawn. As they closed the distance, Come on. They leapt in perfect synchronization. Landing in a tumble at his feet, he slammed the ramp shut. The horizon roared. lifting off the pad and tilting hard as Mac engaged evasive thrusters. A barrage of plasma bolts followed them from the bay late clumsy. One clipped the rear shields, but they held. Jack stumbled into the corridor, heart hammering. The sisters huddled against the wall, panting, their skin slick with effort. Their markings still glowed faintly. "Are you hurt?" he asked, crouching. Beside them, Lura looked up, tired, but safe. What did you do back there?" "Pheromones," Era murmured. "Defense. For predators. Confuses them. Makes them." She hesitated, cheeks darkening. Weaker. Jack swallowed, trying to ignore the way the air still buzzed with warmth. The way his heart was racing not from fear. Ma tilted her head. "You feel it too." "I feel something," Jack admitted, trying to shake it off. "But that can." "Wait, we need distance." He stood, moving toward the bridge. "Mac, status?" "We've got company," Mac replied grimly. 3 patrol ships, closing fast. Jack cursed. "They followed us?" "More likely tracked us, Talia." The pilot chimed in. "Probably tagged that regulator you stole." Jack's stomach twisted. He'd brought danger aboard. Again, he turned to the sisters. "Find a room, get some rest. You've done more than enough." But they didn't move. Lura stepped forward, her voice soft. "We help. Not passengers. Family now." Jack paused. Something about the way she said it made his pulse skip. "Family? In Palladian culture," she explained. "One who rescues. One who shares food, warmth, protection, becomes bonded. Spirit deep. Deeper still with." Her eyes dropped. Cheeks darkening again. Physical joining. Jack blinked, understanding dawning. "Are you saying we're bonded?" Ma nodded. "You are now part of us." Era added, "And we, part of you." Before Jack could respond, the ship lurched hard to starboard. "Jack!" Mac barked. "They're trying to force a boarding." He turned to the sisters, torn between panic and something more primal. "We're outgunned and outnumbered. You said you wanted to help?" They nodded as one. "Then get to engineering." Mac give them access to the core. "If they can give us a boost like they did in that bay, we might just make it." Mac's voice crackled with disbelief. "You want me to let the cat girls into the power core?" Jack's reply was firm. "Yes, trust them, I do." The sisters moved in silence, gliding through the corridors like ghosts. Jack reached the bridge just as the enemy ships came into view, sleek, black, fang-like. "Market Consortium vessels. Killers. Strap in," he said. "We're not outrunning them the old way." A moment later, a soft hum vibrated through the ship. Then it built. Lights flickered. Panels surged. The engines screamed with new life. Sisters were doing it again, channeling something, pouring energy into the horizon's heart. The ship lurched forward like a beast unleashed, breaking through the enemy blockade with impossible speed. Laser fire streaked past, missing by inches, but it didn't matter. They were gone. As the stars blurred into streaks and silence returned to the bridge. Jack slumped into the captain's chair, heart pounding. He'd saved them, but somehow they'd saved him right back. Asterisk. The horizon hurtled through uncharted space, a streak of silver blue tearing across the void as systems recalibrated from the Palladians' raw energy surge. The engines glowed hot but steady, their usual hum now laced with something deeper, almost organic, like the ship itself had inhaled new life. Captain Jack Harlow sat motionless in the command chair, his hands gripping the armrests, chest still, rising and falling with adrenaline. Across the bridge, Mac was hunched over the engineering console, sweat beading down his temples, while Talia stared out the forward screen, trying to make sense of what she just flew through. Jack broke the silence first. "Status? Engines are stable." I think, Mac muttered, tapping through diagnostics. Power output's off the charts. I've never seen the core glow like that without melting itself down. We should be dead, Talia added, voice flat. But instead, we're 20. Light years away from Nexus 6 in less than 2 minutes. Jack leaned back, eyes distant. Then they did it, again. As if summoned, the bridge doors parted with a gentle hiss, and the Palladian sisters stepped through. This time, they weren't trembling or hunched with fear. They moved with confidence, grace. Their borrowed jumpsuits clung to them like second skin, and their faint silver markings still shimmered under the low lights. But Jack saw something else now. Power. Lura, in the lead, met his eyes. You are safe now. Jack stood slowly. What you did, ... How? That wasn't just pheromones. Ma stepped forward. We share energy. Through link. You mean the bond? Era nodded. Yes, we amplify when near mate, when connected. Jack's heart thudded at the word mate. There was no hesitation in how she said it, no questioning the depth of what had happened. To them, the bond was already sealed. Mac raised a hand, shaking his head. Wait, what are you saying? You three are mated to the captain? Laura looked over at Jack, then back to Mac. Yes, all three. Palladian bond is soul deep. When joined, connection forms. Not just ... physical. Psychic. Permanent. Mac blinked. Well ... damn. Jack cleared his throat. There's something you're not telling me. Back in that cage, they said you were royal blood. Is that true? Laura hesitated, then slowly nodded. We are triers, rare sisters. 3 born together. Ancient prophecy. Jack narrowed his eyes. Prophecy? Ma stepped forward. 3 sisters. Born to unite lost fleet. To call defenders. To destroy the devourer. The word landed like a stone in the room. Talia turned from the console. The devourer? What the hell is that? Grathmo, Era whispered. Leader of consortium. He who eats minds, who drinks us, has for decades. Jack stiffened. He remembered the rumors, high-level psychic manipulators feeding on exotic blood. But this wasn't just exploitation. It was consumption. Power through butchery. He wants you for more than food, Jack said slowly. He wants your blood, your bond, your gifts, Laura nodded. If he consumes all 3, he becomes unstoppable. Not just strong, omnipresent. Galaxy trembles. Jack turned toward the nav console, keying in coordinates. We need to hide. Lay low. Mac shook his head. We can't. They're tracking us. The regulator? Jack asked. Worse, Mac replied. There was a tracker embedded in the power cell. But not just location, it was transmitting biological data. Laura's eyes darkened. Then he knows. Talia leaned forward. Knows what? That we carry his greatest threat, Laura answered softly, placing a hand on her belly. Jack blinked. Wait, ... Are you saying? Yes, Ma said, stepping beside her sister. We carry your children. Era smiled, placing her hand on her abdomen. All 3. Silence fell. Talia gasped. Mac dropped his toolkit. Jack's world tilted. I what? Our kind bonds fast, Laura explained. Fertility aligns. Bond accelerates. You are compatible. Compatible? Jack echoed. I just ... I didn't think. They grow strong, Ma said with quiet pride. Part human, part Palladian, first of kind. Jack reached for a railing to steady himself. In the span of days, he'd gone from traitor to fugitive, and now father to a generation that might alter the future of 2 species. Captain. Talia interrupted, her voice clipped. We've got a new signal. 1 vessel. High-speed approach. Jack moved to her console. The screen displayed a silhouette sleek, predatory. It moved like no other ship they'd encountered. "Graf Mo," Era whispered. "He comes. How is he tracking us?" Jack asked. "He doesn't need trackers," Ma replied. "He can feel us." Jack looked at the sisters, now standing shoulder to shoulder. Beautiful, powerful, bonded. "And carrying his children. We need to run." "No," Lura said. "Running won't stop him." Jack clenched his fists. "Then what?" "Will?" She stepped close, her voice calm and resolute. "We fight." A horizon rumbled as engines shifted. Jack turned to his crew. "Prep all weapons, shields full. Plot a course into the Cygnus Nebula. It's hell for sensors. Maybe it'll buy us time." "And if it doesn't?" Mac asked. Jack looked at his unlikely family, his crew, his ship, and the 3 blue-skinned mothers of a new future. "Then we give him hell." The Cygnus Nebula loomed like a living storm. In the void, a swirling mass of ionized gas, electromagnetic chaos, and ghostlight. Flashes that made even seasoned navigators hesitate. But Captain Jack Harlow wasn't hesitating. "Not now. Take us in," he said, voice low but steady. Talia gave him a wary look. "That nebula scrambles everything, comms, scanners, even basic nav." Jack nodded. "Exactly why we're going in." The horizon slid into the storm, its hull shimmering against the plasma winds outside. Lightning arced between clouds of neon blue vapor, and the ship groaned under the strain of the interference. Systems flickered. Lights dimmed. "We're blind in here," Mac muttered from the engineering station. "If Graf Mo follows, he will," Lura said from the doorway, her voice unwavering. "He can feel us." Jack turned. The Palladian sisters had entered silently, dressed now in modified crew uniforms. Their silver markings were more pronounced than ever, glowing faintly with each breath. Their pregnancies, only days old, were already visible. And their eyes held fire. "You said you could call defenders," Jack said. "The resistance." Era stepped forward. "We can. But it's not just a signal. It's a song. A harmonic call that resonates through psionic space. We must be together, aligned and focused." Mac rubbed his forehead. "But if you do that here, in the nebula, ... won't it expose us?" "Yes," Ma said quietly. "It will expose us. To everyone." Jack's jaw clenched. "Then we better make it count." Talia looked up from her console. "Incoming." Graf Mo's ship just entered the nebula. No escorts. Just him. Of course, Jack thought. He didn't need a fleet. "He knows the children are inside me," Lura said, one hand resting on her stomach. "That's all he wants now." "He's not taking you," Jack snapped. "Not any of you." The sisters moved to the center of the bridge, forming a triangle. Hands clasped. Heads bowed. And then they began to hum. The sound was barely audible at first, just a gentle vibration in the bones, but it grew. Deep, resonant, ancient. Lights flickered. The ship's energy core began to thrum in sync with the song. A harmonic convergence was forming. Jack felt it in his chest like a second heartbeat. The Palladian song spiraled into the nebula, invisible but undeniable. Jack turned to Mac, broadcast the signal. Everything. The footage from Nexus 6, the meat market, the tracker, Graf Mo's crimes. All of it. "You want to go public now?" Mac asked. "With him breathing down our necks?" Jack nodded. "We're not just running. We're exposing everything." Mac swallowed hard, then activated the uplink. Broadcasting now. Outside the ship, the nebula twisted violently. Graf Mo's vessel surged forward through the storm, massive and predatory, its black hull bristling with organic spikes, its core pulsing red. "He's here," Talia whispered, on the tactical screen. The enemy ship locked onto them. No warning shots this time, just a direct assault. A beam of pure psionic energy slammed into the Horizon's shields, rattling the entire ship. We can't take more than a few hits like that. Mac. Shouted. Double quotes. Hold position, Jack ordered. Hold that song. The sisters' voices rose, shimmering with light. Their bodies lifted inches from the deck, suspended by raw psionic force. Their eyes glowed white, markings now like molten silver dot, and then it happened. Dozens of warp signatures ignited on the edge of the nebula. Multiple contacts. Talia yelled, "Unknown configuration, wait." They're not enemy ships. They're feline, elegant, Palladian. The Palladian resistance fleet had arrived. Sleek, crescent-shaped ships painted with radiant tribal sigils slipped through the nebula like ghosts, flanking Grathmo's massive vessel. They answered the call, Lura whispered, still hovering. We are no longer alone. Comms lit up with hails from resistance commanders, voices filled with awe and fury. The Triers live, one cried. The bond is real. Another voice joined stern, Terran. This is Admiral Christensen of the Terran Alliance. Captain Harlow, your broadcast has been received. We are initiating immediate intervention against all known consortium networks. Jack's throat tightened. Then we end it. Here. The Resistance opened fire first. Gleaming energy lances and gravitic disruptors slammed into Grathmo's vessel. The Terran fleet followed suit from beyond the nebula, launching guided EMPs designed to neutralize any ship tied to psionic control. Grathmo's ship shuddered, but retaliated with terrifying, strength-projecting waves of mental distortion that crashed against allied ships like tsunamis. Some smaller vessels faltered, their pilots screaming over open channels. Jack turned to the Palladians. Can you block him? Lura's eyes opened, glowing with fire. We can bind him. Their song shifted. It became sharp, commanding. The hum turned to a cry, a pulse that collided with Grathmo's psychic storm. The enemy ship stalled mid-charge. On the view screen, Jack saw him, Grathmo himself. A pale, emaciated humanoid with black eyes and veins that pulsed like exposed wires. His gaze bore straight through the cameras, and for a moment, Jack felt something probe his mind, but the bond snapped shut. Lura's voice rang in his mind. He cannot reach you anymore. You are protected. We are one. The Resistance capitalized on the moment. One final blast coordinated from the Terran flagship, and the lead Palladian dreadnought lanced through Grathmo's ship. The vessel erupted into fractal fire, then crumpled inward like a dying star. The Devourer was no more dot as the wreckage floated in silence. Jack looked around the bridge. The sisters slowly descended, eyes soft, bodies trembling with exhaustion, but alive. The nebula quieted. The war was over. But the real journey, the one that began with a cage and a choice, was only just beginning. Asterisk. The horizon floated in silence just beyond the edge of the Cygnus Nebula, its hull scorched, systems flickering from the strain, but intact. The stars beyond no longer felt cold. They felt wide open, infinite, as if the galaxy had exhaled after years of held breath. On the bridge, Captain Jack Harlow sat back in his command chair, eyes on the wreckage where Grathmo's ship had been. No cheers erupted, no music played. Just the quiet hum of survival and something deeper, resolution, the kind that changed the shape of civilizations. We did it. Talia whispered from the helm, her voice still hoarse from tension. Yeah, Jack replied, but even he didn't sound convinced. Not yet. Footsteps padded softly across the bridge. The Palladian sisters moved toward him, Lura, Aira, and Ma, no longer fugitives, no longer prey. Their silver markings had dimmed, but their eyes burned with a quiet fire. They were queens now, though they carried no crowns, only swollen bellies, bonded hearts, and a song that had saved the galaxy. The transmission reached over 100 systems, Mac reported. The meat markets, the blood trade, all of it's being shut down. Terran Alliance has issued a formal warrant for all consortium leadership. They're done. Jack let that sink in. All of it, the running, the fear, the impossible decisions had led here. He looked at Lura, who stepped close and took his hand without hesitation. "You still don't believe it," she said gently. "I do," he answered. "I just don't know what comes next." "Family," Era said, brushing a hand across her stomach with pride. "Home," Ma added, curling against his other side. The soft ping of an incoming transmission interrupted the moment. Talia answered, and Admiral Christensen appeared once more on the holoscreen. Her uniform crisp, her expression more human now than military. "Captain Harlow, your evidence lit a fire under every council member in the Alliance. You didn't just save 3 lives. You saved thousands, maybe millions." Jack nodded, but his eyes remained on the sisters. "I didn't do it alone." "We know," Christensen replied. Then her voice softened. "There's talk of establishing a protected zone for displaced Palladians. Somewhere they can rebuild." Lura's ears perked slightly. "A new Falada. You've earned that right," Christensen said. "The Alliance will help, but it'll need leadership. A symbol of the new bond between our species." Jack sighed. "I figured you were leading up to that. We'd like you to serve as the planetary liaison, you and the Triers." He looked at Lura. She simply nodded. "It is time." 6 months later, the observation platform of New Falada gleamed beneath a golden sky. The colony stretched far below, a tapestry of elegant Palladian towers entwined with human-engineered stability. Bioluminescent trees lined the walkways, and children of both species chased each other between the roots. Jack stood by the window, arms crossed, gaze distant. Behind him, the door opened. Lura entered first, regal despite her simple flowing robe, a soft purr under her breath. She carried a blue-skinned infant in her arms, his features unmistakably human, yet distinctly Palladian, with golden eyes and hair the same dark shade as Jack's. Ira followed, holding a girl with silver streaks in her scalp and tiny retractable claws. Ma came last, a quiet smile on her face as she rocked the smallest child, who cooed with a psychic flicker of awareness that rippled through the air. They wanted to see their father, Lura said. Jack turned and everything changed. Took his son from Lura's arms, marveling at the warmth, the weight, the presence of him. The child's eyes glowed faintly as he looked up, and Jack felt a flicker in his mind, a whisper of pure thought. Safe. His throat tightened. "He spoke to me." "All 3 will," Ma said, stepping closer. "Soon they are born of bond. Already connected." Jack looked at each of them, the sisters, the children, his family. Era touched his arm. "The people call them Bridgers, the first of the new kind, stronger than Palladian, kinder than humans, made of both." Jack let out a breath and chuckled softly. No pressure. Lura leaned into his side, her head resting against his shoulder. "You once spent your last credits to save 3 frightened strangers in a cage. You thought it was the end." "It was," Jack said, his voice low. "The end of who I used to be." Outside, the banners of the new colonies snapped in the wind, bearing 2 emblems side by side, the Terran Alliance and the sigil of the Triers. Side by side, equal as the sun dipped low, casting the sky in vibrant streaks of purple and gold. Jack stood with the sisters, their children in his arms. The galaxy had changed, and it all started because one human couldn't walk past a cage. Man who spent his last credits to save alien cat-girls, knowingly purchased the future. *, the end.